Well, hi, Saxophone fans. Steve Goodson. I'm speaking to you from the executive offices of our ultra top secret command and control bunker here in the Garden District of Old New Orleans. And it's Mardi Gras time. And I've been extra busy. So, you guys cut me a little slack here. Tonight's session is going to be about all of those questions from our viewers that have been building up. And I get a lot of questions after every one of these sessions. And what I tried to do is find the best ones that I thought would be of the most interest to you guys. And yeah, I'll tag Casey Ray Lipe, he's one of my favorite clients. And Chad Taylor, bring on the camera. Okay, add Chad. If you have some questions during the course of tonight's broadcast, feel free to ask, and I'll do my best to get to it. I get questions all the time, and the best way to ask me questions is always by email to saxophone@cox.net. If you call me, I'm glad to talk to you as long as I'm not busy, don't have a client with me, or I'm not giving a lesson or something like that. So let's get right in with these questions. And I've got them broken down into general, headings, I guess, general topics. And, just because we miss your question on a given topic doesn't mean you can't ask it at any time during the broadcast. So anyway, I don't understand what this business is about wanting to add cameras, but we can do that too. All right. So first question on saxophone design is why don't you or anybody else make a low A alto tenor? Well, we could, but very honestly, I don't want my experience to be the same as the experience of our good friends at the Selma Company, which is they built a bunch of them things and they couldn't sell them. Why? Because there wasn't any music written for them. It's as simple as that. I owned over the years 3 of those. The best one was a gold-plated low A alto that also had a high F sharp key, which I understand was sort of uncommon. Anyway, hey, Donna, glad to have you with us. Bring them on camera. Sure, we will. Okay. So anyway, that's the reason. We could certainly do this. And there are a couple of things about those low A altos that I want to make clear. Number one, they did not have different necks. And the only thing you got to do to make a low A alto or make any low B flat alto into a low A alto, other than adding the requisite key work, of course, is to, make the proper bell for it. It's not rocket science. Anybody who knows anything about saxophone design can do that, and it's not hard. But who's going to buy them? And who's going to pay for that specialized tooling if nobody buys them? Well, it's not going to be me. So that's the reason we don't. Now, another question we get asked all the time is what is the advantage or disadvantage of a curved soprano instead of a straight soprano? And I think this is pretty straightforward. If you play in a straight soprano at the proper 60-degree angle, you playing right into the floor. You're not playing, up where the audience is. They're out there, but you're playing in the floor. If you play in a curved soprano, you can hear it better. It's not going away from you. Now, that being said, almost all curved sopranos are painful to play. And the reason they're painful to play is mostly over the use of the left hand little finger, because, to reach low C sharp, you got to stretch around there and it gets you out of the playing position, it hurts. Now, on our curved soprano, what we do, we actually use the same table, left-hand pinky table that we use on our altos, and that low G sharp, B flat, B, and low C sharp are right here where the little finger naturally falls. You don't have to pull it around, and that's why we think curved sopranos are the way to go, because the player can hear it. Do they sound any different? Well, the inherent tone of it's no different, but the way it gets to your ears is different, and that's a big advantage. Okay, another question we get asked about saxophone design is that the fact that we use double arms on our low B flat, low B, and low C on all of our saxophones. And doesn't that add too much weight? Look, you can take those extra arms and put them in your hand. It doesn't weigh hardly anything at all. But what it does do is it keeps that big key cup, if it's attached at 2 points rather than just one, it can't move in a horizontal plane and leap. At 2 points, can't move. Great thing, everybody ought to do it. All right, another one we get asked all the time about saxophone design is why do straight altos and tenors sound different? Well, who said they sounded different? They don't sound different. Now, the fact that you played them into the floor kind of makes you hear them different. But as far as the instrument itself sounding different, there's no reason for it to. You could build one that sounded different by changing the bore taper or the neck or such as that. But all things being equal, the only difference in a straight alto and a regular alto, or a straight tenor and a regular tenor, is the bow. Nothing else. Did you hear me? Nothing else. And so, yeah, they sound different if you're blowing into the floor. I think they're really a pretty poor idea. David Goodson, my very own brother, he's a world famous rocket scientist, and everybody in the family is proud of my brother Dave. Yeah, we'll add him. Proud to add him. He got a son that's just as smart as anybody you ever met. He's a student at Florida State, and David's wife is she's an exotic blonde beauty. So we're glad to have them. Let's see. Donna says the other thing about straight soprano is you have to watch your playing angle. No kidding. That's why Donna Schwartz is a great saxophone teacher, because that playing angle is critical. You can't play it like you do a clarinet at about a 45-degree angle. A straight soprano ought to be at about a 60-degree angle. And that's my Jane Lindsay Thomas. Jane, I'm glad you're with us. Jane and I went to high school together. She sure was a beautiful girl. She was a cheerleader too. All right, so anyway, that's all I got to say about straight altos and tenors. Now, here's another one I get asked all the time. Steve, why don't you make a one-piece straight soprano? Well, we could, but we don't. You know why? We're aware of the laws of physics in this universe, which apparently not everybody paying attention to. Look, if you play the naturally occurring overtone series, you're going to find that the overtones get progressively sharper. Now, I'll tell you, and I think anybody else that designs horns for a living will tell you that if you want to design a saxophone that plays in tune with itself in the lower octave and the fundamentals, that is a no-brainer. Getting the octaves to match, that is the tough part. And that's why a one-piece soprano is probably not a good idea, because a properly designed saxophone is invariably going to be 4 different cones. And every one of those cones is going to have a different taper. And that's the way you get the octaves to match. Now, I'm not going to tell you any more about how to do that, or I'd be putting myself out of a job. But the fact of the matter is, if you want the octaves to match, you're not going to do that with a one-piece soprano unless you get to doing some crazy shenanigans with the step in the body tube, tapers and all that, and it's probably not a real good idea. All right. Hey, here's one that I've been lobbying for years, and it's, if I could get them easily, I would. The Bishop Company made saxophones with screw-in Norton springs. The Norton Company made the springs. Hey, Jimmy, old boy, saw your wife the other day at my mama's birthday party. But is that a good idea? Yeah, it is, because something that you guys who are amateur repairmen, or you guys that are out there on the road, got to fix a spring in a hurry, can't do is replace needle springs. It's tough. So yes, I do want Carol Sproul. Yes, I do. She's married to my best friend of all my life. So anyway, these springs screw in, and installing them's a no-brainer. And if I had a good source for them, I'd be using them on our horns. I sure would, because they're a good idea. And I think nobody but the Bishop Company used them simply because they were expensive. And so, all right, here's one of my favorite questions is what would be the design improvement that you think would be easiest to implement? I tell you something about me and my playing of the saxophone, and that is that I live in mortal terror of ever having to coordinate the left hand and the right hand. Like if we're playing a high E, or even worse, a high F sharp, and then I got to move this guy back around and all that and catch that high F sharp key. Of course, if you had a Sax Gourmet Super 400, you'd also be worried about playing that high G key. But here's the fact, is that if you look at the way, and there's some pictures on my web pages of the way the LeBlanc Company put the high F sharp key touch under the high F touch, so you played it with your ring finger of your left hand, man, that's the way to do it. And I hope that on the next series of saxophones we build, we'll be smart enough to do that. Out of all the things that have been done in the past that I think are my cousin Bob Mitchell. Hey, Bob. Bob works on a riverboat. He's out there on the river right now. So welcome to the show, Bob. What design idea would have the greatest benefit to players? There's no question in my mind, and the patents have expired, on the LeBlanc fingering system, which ensures that there are no closed tone holes on your saxophone. The G sharp, the E flat, and the low C sharp are all closed, and those closed tone holes devour the sound. But if you had them all open, man, that wave would just be flowing through that horn like nothing you ever saw. Plus, there are a lot of other good options. Now, I've got a good article on those LeBlanc saxophones on my saxgourmet.com site. So after you've watched this seminar and watched Donna Schwartz's seminar, you go watch it. As long as we talk about ideas that we can steal from other great horns of the past because the patents have expired, is what would be improvements? On a Buffet S1, the way the low E flat and C are configured is genius. Expensive to manufacture, but genius. Also, the left-hand table on that, it's got a split in the low B flat key. So you can come off that C sharp, grab your low B flat, it's wonderful. Expensive to manufacture. Now, something that I don't know why I hadn't been putting on our horns because it's such a good idea is the PermaJust key feet like we used on the Con 26M and the 30M. I played a 30M for years and loved that horn. And man, you could adjust those key feet to where that action was perfect. Now, another thing, if you'll go look at some pictures of a Con 28M designed by my teacher, Sandy Runyon, you'll find that on the adjustment bar on the back of the stack, the one that the A and the B key feet catch to close the C pad, or the any of the keys on the right-hand stack, the F, the E, or the D catch to close the F sharp pad. Well, on all our saxophones, here comes the key foot. It catches it up and it closes it. Okay, that works. But if you want it to feel smooth as butter, then what you need to do is have that adjusting arm where the key, when it comes down on the top and moves it down. Oh, baby. It's a great thing. It's a great thing. And that's something else stupid me ought to make available on the next generation of altos and tenors that we build. And also another thing that ought to be done, and I think we're better at doing this than anybody else, is we make all the stack keys and then some more keys screw adjustable. All right, another saxophone design question is, why is nobody making a C melody or a C soprano? Well, Bird Epplesheen is making a C soprano, I know, because I've played it. And as far as a C melody, my friends over in China, that beautiful lady, Vicky Gong, and her company are making a C melody, and it's a modern C melody. It plays beautifully in tune, and it works just like a regular saxophone. Now, here's another design question. Steve, you have some extra weights added to the neck and to the receiver and the belt body brace your horn. Why not put them on initially? He says we don't. It's true that on some of my personal horns, they got some add-on weights, because I like for my horns to have a manly amount of mass on them, because that makes them speak a little better, and that's a good thing in my opinion. Okay, that's it for the design questions for the time being. By the way, you guys be sure and share this seminar on your websites and like it if you do in fact like it. I hope you do. So let's talk about manufacturing. With 3D printing, and I've got a great deal of experience with 3D printing, courtesy of my good friends Bill Liskey and Steve Brocious over at EMR Machine in Phoenix, Arizona. Couldn't you make a perfect copy of the great horns of the past? Sure, absolutely you could. Why would you want to? Modern horns are better than old horns. People that don't agree with that don't own a tuner. Or if they do own a tuner, they own a bad one. Simple as that. So anyway, you could. A 3D printer will copy anything you want pretty much perfectly. Now, there is some aspects of that technology that is not perfect yet, but it will be soon. So just be patient. Now, why don't more manufacturers offer roll tone holes? Well, our company does. The Voodoo Rex got roll tone holes. Category 5's got roll tone holes. And I believe that one or two of the Marriotts have roll tone holes. I believe that Calworth is still offering a roll tone hole option on the SX90. So why would you want to? Well, I'm going to be straight up with you now. The reason we offer roll tone holes helps sell saxophones. Does it do anything else than that? Nope. Change the way the horn sounds? Nope. Change the way the horn feels? Nope. Increase sales? Yeah. That's why we do it. And if the truth be told, I think that's the reason everybody else does. All right. If cryogenic treatment is such a good idea, why don't more manufacturers offer it? Well, I believe Yamaha still does. I would defer to my friend Jeff Peterson for the answer to that. Um, we could be persuaded to cryo a horn for you if you wanted it done. I have all my personal horns cryoed. Um, we have found that unless somebody can play it before and after, they won't become a true believer. If they do play a horn before it's cryoed and then after that same horn has been cryoed, they'll always have the horns cryoed. And that's the truth. The people that say, well, cryo doesn't work, it can never work, it's not possible, have never had their own horn cryoed. Okay? That's the truth. And so I'm not going to listen to any discussion from people who haven't had it done themselves. Our friend from Canada, Bernard Jean, he bought a real nice horn for me one time, and I enjoyed meeting. He and his brother were down here visiting New Orleans and all that. So welcome to the broadcast. Okay, so why aren't the screw threads in saxophone standardized? Damn if I know. So the fact of the matter is there's no reason that at least the threads couldn't be standardized. Different people use different point configuration and such as that on the pivot screws, but there's no reason threads couldn't all be the same. Why are there no saxophones manufactured in the United States? Well, the simple fact of the matter is because you can't get it done. There's nobody here that's got the equipment to do it, much less, I'm hesitant to say this, but I think this is true, the expertise to do it. And then they say, oh, Steve, what about the Powell Silver Eagle? What a scam. They bought the tooling for the B&S Medusa, brought it over to the United States, and said, oh, yeah, this is a Super 20. No, it wasn't. It was B&S Medusa that said Silver Eagle on it, okay? Let's get that out of the way. Now, let's also get out of the way that after they kind of went under trying to do that, they tried to sell the tooling to me. And, of course, tooling originally belonged to Gerhard Meinl, who is a friend of mine, somebody I know. He was the guy who made the B&S in the first place. So that was a scam. It was not really a USA designed and all that horn, and they went out, they went under. So you could do it if somebody was willing to throw enough money at the problem, but I'm not, and I don't know anybody who would. And so why are other materials such as plastic or carbon fiber not used for saxophone? Well, I got a couple of horns in my teaching studio right now that are made of polycarbonate. They're the vibrato saxophones. And those are really very, very fine and very innovative instruments. They are what they are, but for the money, that's a really nice and very durable saxophone that plays beautifully. Also, forgive me, I can't remember the guy's name right off, but a guy I know in Taiwan is making some wonderful polystyrene necks. And I understand that now he's making a polycarbonate neck, which I have not seen. But that's probably something else that you can do a little more with. Is different materials for necks. There's no reason you can't make a saxophone out of polycarbonate. You got to do some kind of crazy things with the springs, but okay, small price to pay. And I'm sure you could make one out of carbon fiber, but I imagine that would be very expensive. All right, here's one we've been waiting for about manufacturing. How can I find out where the different brands are made? I'll tell you, they're made in Taiwan or China, or Vietnam, or Indonesia, and soon to be in India. Well, what about a specific brand? A lot of these brands that you see are made in a different factory every time they get a run of horns made. They're buying them from the lowest bidder. That's not always the case. Our Saxophone made horns are, now we use several different factories, but we use the same ones every time. And other people do the same, and there's nothing wrong with that. Just about all the horns that are made in Taiwan these days, except for the KHS horns that are sold under the brand name of Jupiter, the components are made all over Asia and then brought together in one place, assembled, and that's very typical in Taiwan. Not such a common procedure in China, not such a common procedure in Vietnam. But there's nothing wrong with that. So which factory is the best? I think the Crown Hope factory in Vietnam is the best factory in the world. And I think I've tried horns from just about every major factory. And I believe those guys do absolutely the best job. Is there any advantage to soldered tone holes where the tone hole is made as a separate part and then soldered onto the body? I can't think of any. If you draw the tone hole from the body the way almost everybody in the business, I think everybody in the business does, then the simple fact of the matter is that you're not going to have any leaks. Strikes me as a pretty good idea. Is there any advantage to ribbed versus unribbed construction? I keep thinking I've made up my mind about that, then I changed my mind. I go back to my two favorite horns of the past, the Buffet S1 and the LeBlanc horns that were made by Burguignot. Both of those were just single post design. And then most other people use rib construction because it's stronger. I don't know. I really don't. I keep saying we're going to build some of the same horns one way and then build exactly the same horn another way, but I never have that opportunity because you'd have to make too many changes. All right, let's go on to mouthpieces. Is one mouthpiece better than any other? You better believe it. Look here. I got some of these on my desk right now. Here they are. What's this stuff? Well, it's pretty, but that's Delrin. Delrin is a polymer. Delrin has far, far superior acoustic qualities to any other material that we've tried. And we're going to be making more and more Delrin mouthpieces in the future. The different materials for mouthpieces have different sounds. You better believe they do, because every material on this planet has a different resonance, and you can prove it yourself simply by thumping it with your finger, and it'll sound different. Why does nobody today offer a removable baffle? Runyon used to do that, and Jody Jazz used to do that. Jody may still do it. I don't know. Forgive me, Jody, for not fully understanding everything you're doing with your product line of very fine mouthpieces. I think Jody may, but I don't know of anybody else who does. And from time to time, I have a client that asks me, would I make them a removable baffle? Sure I would. It's easy to do. Okay, on the subject of mouthpieces, single screw ligatures or double? Well, when I was first learning to play, we had double screw ligatures, and the band director said, tighten the back ligature screw more than the front ligature screw, which would be barely snug. I'm not sure what that was about. And let's see. Donna Schwartz says that Jody does. She says she doesn't think he does anymore. I don't know. I'll call him and ask him and find out. But anyway, we on the ligatures that we make for our mouthpieces, that we sell, the Saxophone made design ligatures, they're all single screw because I can then pull the tension evenly to all parts of the mouthpiece. What reed tools do I use? Now, I used to have a wide assortment of knives and leveling apparatus and all that. And then I switched to only using single edge razor blades. And then I got myself a reed geek. And I want to tell you something. That is, if there ever was a one size fits all and does everything you need, it's a reed geek. And I use it all the time, and I just think it's great. And I would encourage you to get one. I know you can get them from Meridian Winds. There are probably some other places too. You may be able to get them on the Reed Geek website. Excuse me, Morrow, if I don't have that straight, but I know you can get them from Meridian Winds. Okay, is 3D printing the mouthpiece wave of the future? No. Well, it can be. I mean, we've printed some really good 3D mouthpieces, but that technology is not mature enough yet. And I've seen some that other people have printed, and they got the same problems that we encountered, which is that the mouthpieces had little voids in them, you know, and the material that you can use to print is not what I'd consider to be the best available material. Now, that being said, I have a polycarbonate mouthpiece that Bill Liskey printed for me at EMR, and that thing plays fantastic. But I've seen some that other people have printed, and the fact of the matter is they had all the problems that we've had in trying to get them. But now, Susan Burks is watching. I want to tell you about Susan Burks. She's married to, of all the keyboard players I've ever worked with, her husband was always my favorite, not only because he could play great, but because he was such a beautiful human being. But now Susan and some of the other girls who used to hang out with that particular band, those girls would get down there and dance. And the name of the band was Dusty Wax, and we called those girls the Waxettes. And so, Susan, I'm honored that you chose to watch this and all that. Hey, Raymond, good to have you with us. But Susan, you honor me. So we can have some likes and we can have some shares now. Don't be shy. Okay, now, what do vintage Lynx, Lawtons, Bergs, Myers, etc. have that cannot be duplicated today? Pay close attention to this answer, because this is the truth. What they have that can't be duplicated today? Absolutely nothing. That's all there is to it. You know, you can hire a metallurgist to tell you what the alloy was, or probably a chemist to tell you what the exact makeup of the hard rubber was. That's no brainer. And you can scan those things down to a 10,000th of an inch. So anyway, that's all the questions that I thought would be of interest to you. Oh, wait, one more I left out. Why do I use radial curves and longer facings? Okay. And by a radial curve, what we're talking about here is this part of the mouthpiece, this curved, is part of the arc of a circle. Why do we use that as opposed to something else? Because I think the reed ought to wrap evenly around that curve. It ought to go through there without any fuss and bother. And why do we use a longer facing curve, which means that the arc of the circle is in actuality a little bigger? Because it lets you play the low notes a little better. And if you're paying close attention and you get your facings accurate, then you won't have any trouble of it favoring the low notes over the high notes. But it's very important that you measure very accurately. All right, let's move on to necks. And so why does a neck from one brand not work on another? Well, once in a blue moon, it does. But look, listen, I know you folks are smart. So would you use Ford parts on a Chevrolet? No, you would. Valerie Barbie. Now, let me tell you something. I probably played my first gig with Valerie in about 1970, and she is still a drop-dead gorgeous, good-looking woman, and she plays the hell out of the bass guitar, but she is a beautiful singer. Wonderful singer, lifelong friend of mine, and I want to tell you something else. That girl is a coon ass, and she knows that I mean that as a compliment. I like those coon ass girls. But Valerie, welcome. I'm honored that you tuned in. All right, so anyway, a neck on from a Selmer is not necessarily going to work properly on a Calworth or a Yamaha or a Yanagasawa, and vice versa. Come on, you can't mix and match. Every now and then something will work, but usually it won't because the math's going to be wrong. And that raises another point, which wasn't part of this question, but the fact of the matter is, if you got somebody trying to sell you a neck, and they tell you that this neck works on all horns, no, it doesn't. That some bitch is lying to you, and you need to put your horn back in the case and run for the door because they don't know what they're talking about. All right, next neck question. Is it better to modify the existing neck or buy another? Well, once a neck's modified, it doesn't go back. And we used to do a big business altering the taper of necks, and every now and then we still do it. But once it's done, it can't really be undone. So I would say keep your original neck original and buy yourself another neck. They're not that expensive. People spend a lot more money on mouthpieces than they do on necks. So get yourself a different neck and you'll be amazed at the difference. All right, on necks. Why is the 4-point SML receiver not in use today? Now, your neck receiver on your horn, unless you have an SML, has one slot in it and a screw, and you tighten the screw and the slots get close together and hold your neck. The SML had a collar, and it had 4 slots in it, and you tighten the screw and all 4 of them. Oh, it was a thing of beauty. It was also expensive to manufacture, and that's why nobody else did it. Okay. Can a neck tenon be threaded? And by that they mean, can they be threaded like the threads on the aftermarket necks that we manufacture and the necks we use on our horns? Eric Waters, yes sir, he's the family rock star. But yes, you can. Yes, I've done it many times, and it's expensive. And my hero Dwight Anderson just tuned in. But anyway, yes, the fact of the matter is that you can thread them. You got to have pretty coarse thread and a big, a big bit. But yeah, you can do it. Okay, here's one that there's not a good answer for. Why is there not an O-ring on the tenon? I used to own a horn. I don't remember what kind it was, because I've owned a bunch of crazy horns over the years. But this one had not an O-ring, but it had a groove cut in the tenon, and it had cork in it. And that facilitated getting an airtight seal. I think that's a good idea, and we need to be looking at a way to put a little thin O-ring in there, and so to seal better. All right. Do any manufacturers offer a Simonetti neck? Let me tell you what a Simonetti neck is, in case you hadn't ever seen one. My good friend, running partner, and Saxophone posse member, Jim Simonetti, out in California, when Jim had a music store, Jim used to take your neck and he would put, I think, 4 O-rings around the end of the neck instead of cork, because the O-rings, you could change out the O-rings, to, get a tighter fit and all that, and it would seal better, wouldn't compress, easy to do, and he even patented that. I am not aware of anybody doing that now, and probably they should. I think it's a good idea. Next question about necks. Are solid silver necks brighter? No. And that's not why Martin and King and whoever else has offered them over the years, offered them in the first place. They're not brighter. They don't sound significantly different than a brass neck, but they do respond a lot better because there's not so much energy that has to go, that's wasted getting the neck to get in motion as there is on a brass neck that has a lot of zinc in it. So at any rate, yes, silver neck's a good idea. I've got some custom made ones that were a gift from the people that make our horns on some of my instruments, and I love them. I use them all the time. Had my good friend Jace Dumars engrave them too, and they're beautiful. All right, why do I like copper necks? As some of you may know, we actually hired a PhD metallurgist, PhD from MIT no less, to advise us about metallurgy with regard to our saxophones. Now, we already knew that the neck was the most important part of the saxophone when it comes to setting the intonation and determining the overall level of response. And something we learned was that if we would make the necks out of 100% copper, or at least 98% copper with 2% of lead herbs and spices, that we would get a lot broader spectrum. We'd get more mids and more lows. And what we would have then is a neck that frankly sounded a little more like a human voice. It wasn't thin sounding, yet it responded very good. So yes, on all my horns, you come over here and visit me, and you'll see all my horns, except a couple of those exotic ones that are crazy modified, all have solid copper necks on them. The other ones have solid silver necks, and some horns have a solid silver and a solid copper neck. Okay, here's a controversial topic: resonators. Well, if oversized resonators are so good, why don't manufacturers use them? Who said they don't? We do. I don't care what anybody else does. Yes, we use bigger resonators for a given pad size than anybody else in the industry. Why? Because it makes your horn more efficient in its use of energy. That exposed pad leather is like a sponge that absorbs energy, makes your horn harder to blow, it distorts the wave, the energy wave. So get yourself some big resonators. Don't act like a fool. Okay, are metal resonators brighter than plastic resonators? Stop reading sax on the web. Stop. Okay. Unless you got a plastic saxophone, you want to have resonators that are as close as possible to the metal from which your horn is made. Did you hear me? Because you want, look, a resonator is nothing but a mirror. And when I look at the mirror and I'm shaving my face, I want to get an accurate representation of my face. Well, also I want the resonator to reflect back into the body tube what that wave is that's going through the tube. So let's don't get confused about using a different material for the resonator. What a dumb thing to do. Steve, what about stick-on resonators? All right, if any of you guys have read the Ernest Ferron book, The Saxophone is My Voice, Ernest Ferron was a French saxophone designer, and he wrote a wonderful book in French, which has now been translated into English, that you can buy from Music Medic. It's got a lot of good stuff in it. And one of the things that he advocated was taking a rod of ebony, which is a very dense wood, and cutting it into thin slices and gluing it onto a pad. I don't think that's such a good idea. Number one, it's not the right material to have a perfect reflection back in there. But worse than that, if there's nothing holding that on there but glue, sooner or later that leather is going to sag. Okay? Not a good situation. So if you stick a resonator on, there are some on the market today that are stick-on. I think that's a bad idea. I don't know why in the world you'd want to do that. Is one resonator shape better than another? Well, yes. Here's what you need to understand. A resonator is going to work its best if you make it big with regard to the amount of reflective surface. That's why we used to use them for years, the old Noyak style resonator that had all those different facets on it. That's why that worked so well. And then we did a little experimenting. And we figured out after a bunch of false starts that if we would make our resonators in the shape of a cone, so we had just a point that dropped down the tone hole chimney. But here, wait a minute, I've got a whole bag full of them right here beside me. We might as well get some of these boys out and show you. All right, look at that. Oh, there's the back side of them. They had the front. See those cone shapes? Yeah, these are our Saxophone made PowerPoint resonators, and they drop down into the tone hole chimney, but there's not such a large amount of that in the tone hole chimney that it affects intonation, but it increases the reflective surface. Does it work great? Yes, it does. So let's don't be shy about sharing this with your friends on your timeline, or saying you like it if in fact you do like it. Now, let's go and talk about pads. Why do we use kangaroo leather on our Saxophone made pads? Kangaroo leather is the strongest leather on the planet. It is also the softest, and that's because kangaroo is a marsupial, and a marsupial has a cell structure that's kind of like a regular lattice, whereas us regular mammals like me and you, the cells are kind of at random in there. So the marsupial skin is stronger and much softer. And because of that structure, they don't stick. Do you hear me? They don't stick. So if you get pads that are made from sheep skin or goat skin or Sasquatch skin or whatever they're making them from, they're not going to be as stick proof as kangaroo leather. Why are linings such as brass foil no longer used in pads? I'm not aware of anybody offering a pad with a layer of brass foil between the leather and felt. We used to do that when I worked for Unison. The Steve Goodson model Unison saxophones had the option of either having a goatskin pad with brass foil between the leather and the felt, or kangaroo leather pads. And the fact of the matter is that those goatskin pads with the brass foil, they were great, but they were hard as rocks. And over time, they got to be even more hard, and they're kind of noisy. I've got a good customer who I repadded his Con 10M with those pads about 15 years ago, and he plays 6 nights a week. And he comes to see me whenever he's through New Orleans. He was through here not long ago. And Horn still got all those original goatskin pads with the brass foil through there. And really, it's like having granite pads. And that thing is noisy, but he plays so loud you could hear the pads. Anyway, okay, our snap-in pads like Bisher used to use, a good idea. They're a very, very good idea. But once again, they're very expensive to manufacture, and you got to have the special key cups and all that good stuff. We used to offer pad options. Why did you stop? when I worked for Unison, we offered either black goatskin pads or we offered white kangaroo leather pads. And what we were doing at the time, we also made that horn. That was a Unison Steve Goodson model in, I think, 6 different finishes. And so 6 different finishes and then 2 different pads. And just as sure, you know, as could be, then somebody would want a black nickel one with white pads or the opposite. I don't know. We're so happy with the black kangaroo leather Saxophone made pads that we're going to stick with those. We're very happy, and the customers are too. Why do we not waterproof our pads? Who said we don't? Because we do. All the horn, when we're setting those horns up, we apply, when we're ironing and steam seating the pads, we apply some Mojo's Never Stick pad powder as part of that process, and that stuff is forever. I'll tell you that the main ingredient of it, it's not the only ingredient, but the main ingredient in Mojo's Never Stick is Teflon. And, you know, Teflon doesn't break down. Now, there's some other ingredients in there, and one of them makes Mojo smell like hippie girls. And remember that hippie girls are well-known friends of all saxophonists. So Mojo's actually attracts them, I understand. So there you go. Would metal backs be better for pads than cardboard backs? Yes, they would. Because they would be very stable and they wouldn't allow any shrinkage, and they would tend to keep the pad flat. And the next question is related to that. What about the reso rings like Con used to use? What that was a stepped ring that went around the perimeter of the pad, and you don't even have to use any glue. You just put those things in the cup and pop them a couple of times with a light rubber hammer, and they're in there for good. And they never blowed out. They're entirely stable, and I think it's a great idea. And I would like to see us do that. What's the best adhesive to use for pads? Shellac. Flake shellac with denatured alcohol, mix it until it's about as thick as motor oil, and then paint the entire back of the pad and seal it, and then paint the entire cup, including the edges. I think that's best. Full disclosure, I often use a Z-Gun from Music Medic to seal the back of the pad. I put some of that excellent shellac on there, and then I rub the back of the pad while it's still hot on a granite block and get a very thin layer of that stuff, and boy, it does a beautiful job of padding. Okay, vintage horns. What's the greatest vintage horn of the past? Well, I've owned one of everything at one time or another, and I am just awfully queer for those LeBlanc horns with the LeBlanc fingering system. I'm a big fan of the Pierrette Super Artiste. I'm a big fan of the Buffet S1 and S3. That's the same horn, just with different alloys. The S3 is all copper. And I think those would be my choices. I've owned some of everything else. I just don't think anything's in the league with those. What horn has the greatest financial appreciation potential? How about a Sax Gourmet Marcel? We only made 20 of them. Why was that? Well, hell, we couldn't give them away. But there are some floating around out there, and they're plenty rare. I got a couple. They're not for sale. Other than that, I think maybe really primo condition SMLs. They're hard to find. It was really hard to find. What is the most common lie told by sellers of vintage horns? There is no question about it, friends and neighbors. One lie I hear more than all the rest. It's a factory re-lacquer. Are you kidding me? You got some documentation to back that? Oh, you don't. You just think it's a factory re-lacquer? Okay, well, whatever. What's my personal favorite? I got a big collection of horns, and I've got 6 LeBlanc system horns, and there's a reason. I love those things. They have an even voice. They play so beautifully in tune, and really wonderful tone quality. No question about it. What about the value of stencil horns? Pay close attention. Stencil horns are not the same as the other horns that are given factory made. Did you hear me? Now you need to quit reading Sax on the web. Just because it says Pan American doesn't mean it's a con, for example. Come on. Are prices moving up or down? Well, pristine examples. I'm not talking about good examples. I'm talking about pristine, perfect. Those things, if anything, are going up in value because there are fewer and fewer of them every day. On the whole, I think prices for old horns are moving down because the feeding frenzy that went on about 10, 15 years ago, primarily from the Japanese dealers, is over. It's over. And all these horns came out from under people's beds, and, all that. So I think they're going down. They may have reached a floor. I don't know. But I don't think they're going up like they were. Is there such a thing as demand for, or no, why is there such a demand for older Selmers versus new Selmers? Damn if I know. And I own a bunch of old Selmers, but, the new Selmers play beautifully in tune and are beautifully made. So, why is everybody, going nuts over Mark 6s or balanced actions or whatever? Damn if I know. If I had to go back to making a living playing the saxophone, my choice would probably be a Selmer Super 80 Series 2 because I like the alloy. Nothing wrong with the other stuff they're currently making, but that would be my choice. All right, live performance. Yeah. What's the best advice you can give players? So you stay working all the time in the club, have your band back. It's simple. Play what girls like. If you play what girls like, boys will come to the club and buy the girls drinks. And that's the biggest mistake that bands make, is they forget why they're there playing in that bar. And the reason they're there is to sell whiskey. It is not to further their music career. It is to sell whiskey. And if you lose sight of that, then you need to learn to say, do you want to supersize that, or would you like fries with that order? Come on, Oh, what's the best advice anybody ever gave me about a live performance? When I was playing with Vince and the Valiants, Vince, who is what a showman and what a master band leader and all that Vince is, and I love him to death. But Vince told me one night, said, look, you look out there at that audience. If they're not singing along with what we're playing, then we just played the wrong song. And suddenly it all became clear to me. Thank you, Vince. That's excellent advice. All right, let's move on to another topic, and the next one is repair. Oh, this is a short one. What's the biggest mistake that I see technicians make? No question about it. They fail to align the key cup with the top of the tone hole. They try to float the pads or, no. Alignment, perfect alignment. If you do that, you won't have any problems to speak of. Do I believe in centering the keys? Now, by that, I mean, should we take the circular cup and here's the center of the tone hole? If it's offset a little left or right, but everything's flat and lined up, in a parallel plane, but if off one way or the other, does it make a difference? Not really. It may impact the resonator fit. And there is such thing as potentially, you can't always do this, moving the rib that the cup's mounted on from side to side to center it. And yeah, that's cool, but your horn has a bunch of S-shaped ribs and all that. It's usually not worth the trouble. If it's way off, then there's something bad wrong. But if it's just a little bit, don't worry about it. Is relacquering or replating always bad? No. My personal Selmer Mark 6 has been replated. It's silver plated with a gold wash belt 4 times. Now, if it's done right, you're not going to hurt it. If it's done bad, you're going to ruin it. That's the fact of the matter. How can you identify a good repairman? Well, go in there and talk to them. Look at their tools. Find out who the full-time professional players are using. Now, I'm not talking about the weekend warriors. I'm talking about the guys who are feeding their family by playing saxophone full-time. Find out who they use, and you'll find the right technician. Okay, here's some questions about Sax Gourmet and what we're up to. Why do we not see multiple octave vents on all your horns? Well, just save you money and buy Category 5. We are giving some consideration to another model that will have 3 vents instead of 2. But I'm not real sure about that, given some other factors in my life right now. Maybe, but you can always buy Category 5 and get 4 octave vents instead of 2. All right. Can I buy the G-sharp mechanism that you use on the Super 400 to put on my own horn? I guess you're talking about a Selmer, Yamaha, and all that. No, we don't sell that as a repair part. Will there ever be different finish options again? No. Our horns have a very distinctive look. And so when you make the big time and you on TV, they'll say, well, look at that. She's playing a Sax Gourmet. Right. Will the Marcel ever be offered again? I was so wrong about that because those of you who know me well know that I have a great love of classical saxophone. And I thought, silly me, that if we offered a classical specific alto, that the world would come to us and buy them all up. Well, I forgot that students tend to buy what their teachers currently using, and the teachers were all using Selmers with a smattering of Yamahas and all that. Lesson learned, an expensive lesson at that. Why don't we sell through dealers? At one time, we had 21 dealers in the United States and a distributor in Europe and a distributor in Asia. And very honestly, I got a real fine website. So, and UPS goes to every nation in the world, so I don't need a dealer. We can keep the price down that way. All right, why don't I attend shows such as NAMM, TMEA, etc.? We used to, every time there were 3 or more saxophone players gathered, we would show up, open a booth, and demonstrate our horns, let people try them. And then, particularly at NAMM, the situation got worse and worse and worse and worse about NAMM deviating from their original mission. The original mission of NAMM was for dealers to come and meet with manufacturers and hopefully find some common ground. It was not for every yo-yo in Southern California who could con some music store into getting them some guest passes and be visitors, come down there and waste everybody's time. And now Monday, you don't on Sundays, you don't even have to have a music store sponsor you. I think it's general admission now. No. It costs a lot of money, and we just don't feel like we need it. We feel like we're very well known in the saxophone world. Our sales certainly indicate that. And since we quit going to NAMM and TMEA and all those other places, we got more money that we can distribute to the owners, and we also can keep prices down. Because if I had to go to NAMM or go to TMEA or the Midwest Conference or any of those other places, I'd have to raise prices to pay for it. Let's see, are all our horns made at the same factory? No. Which factories are they made at? I ain't gonna tell you. It's none of your business. Would you consider changing my credit card or PayPal policy? No. How do I become an endorsing artist? Okay, there's not a week goes by that somebody doesn't ask me, what can I do to become an endorsing artist? And the answer is very simple. Convince me that you can sell a very specific number of saxophones that we otherwise wouldn't sell due to your endorsement. That's all you got to do. Now, we're going to hold your feet to that number, and I need to know a specific number. If you can do that, then we got something to talk about. If we can't do that, we ain't got anything to talk about, because endorsers are generally just people that want me to give them horns, and that's not what we do. What can we expect from Saxophone Man in the future? Well, we've got a number of new mouthpieces under development. We got some new necks that we're experimenting with. We've got a couple of prototype models that I keep thinking I'm going to put into production. So believe me, we're going to be in business for a long time to come. And we're going to bring you the cutting edge of saxophone products. So that's all I've got today for you. If you have questions, I'm always glad to answer them. And I thank you very much for your business. And I thank you very much for all of you guys tuning in. It's been a real pleasure to be able to speak to you tonight. And remember, practice long tones every day and keep your reed wet. Goodbye for now.